Meditation has been invented many times in every culture of which we're aware. In ancient India before the present era, in 2nd century Japan, in the Syrian and Jordanian deserts, in the 5th to the 15th century, in the European medieval monasteries, in 12th century Spain, in 18th to 19th century Poland and Russia. They developed the same set of techniques that were designed to give a fuller relationship with the self and with others. Although the techniques developed in these different places and climates and times were basically the same and very often identical, there were some differences in the basic orientation of the East and the West. In the East, in China, Thailand, Japan, India, they developed a larger number of techniques and generally more complex ones. In the West, they developed clearer and simpler techniques, and also an orientation to the fact that positive social action played a part in the process of spiritual development. The West was concerned with what you do as well as what you think and feel. The West has always believed that outer action must accompany inner work. This is one of the fundamental differences between the two. Otherwise, they tend to develop, both East and West, much the same techniques, the same methodologies. A meditation program is designed primarily to do three things. One, to tune and train the personality as an Olympic athlete tunes and trains the body. Secondly, to develop a certain attitude towards the self, which acts as a nourishment for further development and for healing the splits within the self. And third, to lead to a deeper comprehension of the dual nature of reality, of the fact that the reality we live in has two fundamental aspects, both of which must be taken into account for fullest humanhood, for fullest life. These three aspects of meditation, these three goals of meditation, will be discussed in more detail as we proceed. I'd like to start with a meditation developed and used primarily in the East, so we all have some common experience and background. It's called breath counting. And what you do in breath counting seems very simple. It is, however, tremendously difficult. Actually, it's impossible, but it's tremendously difficult. We'll talk more about why it's difficult and why it's impossible after you've had some experience with it. What you do is this: you get yourself comfortable, and then we're going to simply count our breaths. We're going to count the exhalations. We're going to count up to 4 and start over again. And we're going to count like this. On each exhalation, we're going to count 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and so forth. Our goal is to be as highly awake, highly alert, highly aware as possible, completely aware of what we're doing, completely keyed up, but doing just one thing at a time. Okay, are you ready? Get comfortable. Let's try it. Let's begin.
As the music fades, turn off this tape and try the breath counting meditation for 5 minutes. You may want to set a clock or timer, or you may just want to go with it until you've meditated for the amount of time that you feel is right. Either way, give yourself time, without an agenda, just to be with the experience. And when you're ready, come back to the tape.
If you worked on this and try to follow the directions, you now understand the meaning of the statement of St. Teresa of Avila, who said, "The mind of an adult is like an unbroken horse that will go in any direction except the one you want it to." And now we come to one of the basic goals, the first goal of meditation, to tune and train the personality, to bring one's mind under more control. Plato, who had studied meditation intensively and knew a great deal about it, said the mind of an adult is like a ship on which the sailors have made a mutiny. And they've locked the captain and the navigator down below in the cabin, and all the sailors, that is, all the parts of the mind, feel very free. One steers the ship for a while, loses interest, wanders off. Another steers the ship for a while, wanders off. The different parts of the mind take control, and everyone feels very free. But, said Plato, there is no freedom. There's no freedom to choose a goal and to wholeheartedly, with one's complete being, to navigate towards it. The task of an adult, said Plato, is to quell the mutiny, to bring the captain and the navigator back up on deck bring them back in control so that we can choose our goals and navigate completely with all our assets towards them. Plotinus, the Roman mystic, put it in different words. He said, the mind of an adult is very much like a choir before the choir master has arrived. Everyone is singing different songs, different tunes rise and fall. In order to get the best out of the choir, the best out of one's life, there must be a choir master in control. If you think about how your mind tended to wander off in all directions as you were trying to meditate, think how it would be if you had as little control over your body as you do over your mind. You'd never get down a flight of stairs alive. You'd start walking down, one foot would go out in one direction, one in another. Our job is to bring much more control. This, however, cannot be done quickly. It requires long and serious work. It requires steady work. There's no quick and easy road to it. One of the things that's most essential to know on this process is that no one can meditate well. You can no more meditate perfectly than you can get somewhere riding on a stationary bicycle in the gymnasium. In both cases, it's not where you get, it's the work that's good for you. You do not learn to meditate without constant interruptions, without your mind constantly drifting off. What you do learn from meditation is to be more alert, more aware, to catch yourself more quickly as you drift off the instructions, and to bring yourself back more quickly, more firmly, and lovingly. The goal of meditation was once described by St. Anthony the Great, who said, "The prayer of the monk is not complete until he's no longer aware of himself or the fact that he's praying." This is what we're working towards. To be highly alert, highly awake, doing one thing at a time, and doing it so completely we're not even aware we're doing it. But don't expect to get there. You work towards it. St. Teresa of Avila once responded to one of her novices. The novice said, "Mother Teresa, it must be wonderful to be like you and not constantly be bothered by distractions during your devotions." And Teresa said, "What do you think I am, a saint?" St. Bernard, who knew a great deal about this, was once asked how often when he was meditating was he completely with it, doing just that and nothing else. And with a sigh that still echoes down the many centuries between now and then, he said, "How rare the hour, how brief its duration." We are constantly distracted, but how do we handle them? How do we handle these distractions? What do we do about them? Well, there are two basic ways. One way is to try to block them out, not to think of the noise, not to think of a slight crick in your back, not to think of what you had for breakfast, not to think of how long it's going to be, to block those out, not to think of them. This way has been used by many people. It is not the best way. The reason it's not the best way is told by a teaching story from the Talmud. The harder we try not to think of things, the more we tend to think of them. How do you handle then the distractions? This brings up the second goal of meditation, to develop a certain attitude towards the self that serves as nourishment for our future growth. We learn to bring ourselves back lovingly and gently, to say, "My friend, that's where we are now back to work." To say, "Honey, that's where I am at this moment, come on back to the job." To say, "Come on, dear, back to it." We try to bring ourselves back gently and lovingly. During meditation, we try to treat ourselves in a very special way, firmly, demanding the best of ourselves, but with love, compassion, and humor. We try to treat ourselves in the way that we wish we'd been treated as a child, the way we would love to be able to treat a child that we care about, and the way we hope and pray someday every child in the world will be treated. Demanding the best, yes, but with love, with warmth, with humor. We treat ourselves as if we're a child that we really care about. It's full of energy and high spirits. We want to keep this child walking on the sidewalk. And the child goes dashing off to the left to pick a beautiful flower. And we say, "Come on, honey, back to the sidewalk." And the child stays on the sidewalk for a second, then goes dashing off to the right to climb a fascinating and inviting tree. And we make a long arm and we bring the child back and we say, "Come on, dear, back to the sidewalk." The child goes off again to walk in a lovely inviting puddle. And we bring him back again with the same kind of compassion, with the same kind of love, with the same kind of firmness. This is how we handle distractions. Bringing ourselves back, trying to bring back a little more of ourselves each time. Bringing ourselves back with humor, with love, with compassion. Let's try the breath counting exercise once more. Remember, there are two essential aspects to it. First, doing one thing at a time, being highly alert, highly awake, highly aware, catching oneself as quickly as possible when we drift off, and bringing oneself back as quickly as we can. And secondly, bringing yourself back with a special attitude of warmth, of love, of caring, of saying, "Come on, honey, back to the work. Let's go."